I didn't think much of it at first. Me and Jamal were doing a walkthrough on floor 7, routine night shift stuff. At the end of one of the side corridors, we came to what we both assumed was just a back wall, but I noticed the corner didn't line up right. The seam in the paint looked off, and the shadows were wrong. Jamal ran his flashlight along it and said, "That's a door." And he was right. Metal frame, handle flush with the wall, no signage, no keycard scanner, no markings at all. But we didn't open it. Not that night. I'm Kevin. I work night security in an old office building downtown. Used to be a luxury hotel in the 40s, the kind with underground speakeasies and ballroom wings. It was converted into corporate suites sometime in the early 2000s, but the structure's still weird. Half the floors have hallways that just end in drywall. The freight elevator doesn't go to B3, even though there's a button for it. You get used to it. The official floor plans don't even match what you walk through. They tell us to log any irregularities, but the entire building is an irregularity. After we saw the door, I went back to the control room and pulled the layout for floor 7. Nothing there. According to the map, that hallway ended 30 feet short of where we'd been standing. It didn't account for the extra space at all. I asked Jamal the next night, "You ever seen that thing before?" He shrugged. "Nah, but maybe it's some maintenance bypass. You know how this place is." That was his answer for everything. You know how this place is. You know how this place is. But I couldn't let it go. I printed the plans and marked where the hallway really ended. I taped it to the edge of the desk in the control room, just above our sign-in logs. After that, I started keeping a list. Every discrepancy, door, and odd corner I could find. Not official logs, just notes for myself. 3 nights later, I walked that hallway again during my solo rounds. I didn't mean to go looking for it. I just ended up there. The whole hallway felt too quiet. The air was still, like no HVAC was moving through. The fluorescent lights were the worst part. They didn't hum, they clicked. And one of them, the one above that door, had a subtle flicker, like a breath. I didn't open it. I just stood there, hand hovering near the flush handle. It felt cold. Not metal cold, wrong cold. Like it wasn't part of the rest of the building. Like if I opened it, the rest of the 7th floor wouldn't be behind it. When I turned around to walk away, I swore I saw the edge of the door shift in the corner of my eye, like it had moved slightly ajar, just enough for the hallway light to shine through the seam. I tried to report it that same night. I called the property manager's emergency line, the one we're only supposed to use if there's flooding or a break-in. I kept it simple. There's a door on floor 7 that doesn't show up on the plans. It's unsecured. The woman on the line asked me to describe its location. I did. Then there was a pause. She said, "That hallway was sealed during reconstruction. If you're seeing a door there, you're mistaken." "I'm looking at it," I told her. "Right now." Another pause. Then she said, "Thank you. We'll have someone review the area in the morning." They never followed up. And the next night, the floor plan I'd taped to the desk and my notes were gone. That shift, Jamal went on break around 3 a.m. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but when he came back about 20 minutes later, he looked pale. Quiet. He sat down and didn't say a word. It wasn't until we were locking up that he finally spoke. "I saw something through the crack last night," he said. I turned. "What crack?" He hesitated. "That door. It was open just 2 inches. I didn't touch it, I swear. It was already like that." He told me he'd leaned in, pointed his flashlight, and saw a long corridor, narrower than ours, with carpeting that didn't match any floor in the building. At the end of that corridor was a mirror, and in the mirror, he saw himself. But not standing where he was. He saw himself behind the mirror, just standing there, looking back. That's when he turned and ran. I went up to floor 7 a few minutes later. The door was shut again, locked up tight like it had never moved. We brought a tape measure and a clipboard the next night, came at it like a couple of middle schoolers doing a science fair project. Started from the stairwell, measuring the known wall segments along the hallway, marked where every column should be. And yeah, the hallway extended 12 feet longer than the blueprints showed. We measured the door frame, took note of the light fixture, even knocked on the wall next to the door to compare the sound. It didn't sound like drywall. It sounded deep. It sounded deep, hollow. We agreed not to open it. But when we walked away, I glanced back and saw Jamal still standing there, staring at the door like he was listening for something. He didn't say anything the rest of the shift. We avoided floor 7 for a few nights after that, started using the freight elevator instead of the main one, just so we wouldn't have to walk past that corridor. Management didn't ask. No one noticed. And for a while, things went back to normal, except I couldn't sleep. I kept dreaming about hallways that bent in the middle, about doors that opened to stairwells with no railings. And once, I dreamed I was standing at that same door. Only this time, someone knocked from the other side. Jamal didn't bounce back either. He did his rounds, but he was off. He didn't joke, didn't talk, just scribbled in his notebook during downtime, floor layouts and measurements from memory. I caught a glimpse once. He'd redrawn floor 7, but it looked wrong. The hallway where the door is. He'd drawn it spiraling inward like a snail shell, as if the building curved in on itself. I asked him if he was okay. He looked up and said flatly, "I don't think I came back out." I laughed it off at the time. I thought he was being dramatic, but he didn't smile. I went back. Not out of bravery, out of fear that if I didn't, Jamal was going to do something irreversible. That night, I was able to open the door, and what I saw made me stop breathing. It wasn't a hallway anymore. It was a copy of our control room. Same desk, same monitors, same snack wrappers on the counter. Even the smell of our burnt coffee, except there was no exit, no ceiling vents, no wiring, just a replica. And sitting in my desk chair was someone facing away from me. I stepped back and pulled the door shut, hard. The next night, Jamal didn't show up for his shift. I called him. No answer. After he no-showed for a second night, the supervisor told me to go clean out his locker and return his badge to the main office. Inside, I found his notebook. Folded between pages was a new floor layout, one I'd never seen before. A corridor labeled Sublevel 4. In the middle of the diagram, Jamal had written, "These rooms weren't built. No one remembers building them." That's the part I can't stop thinking about. Because last night, I was doing rounds on floor 4, nowhere near where we found the first one. I turned a corner near the copier hallway, and I just froze. There was a door at the end, same flush metal, same faint seam around the edge. No frame, no label. It wasn't there before, just like the other one. And there's no one left to tell. There was only supposed to be one tenant left on B2. The rest of the lower level had been vacant for months, cleaned out during the last leasing restructure. But when I passed the security monitor during my 2 a.m. rounds, I saw something I couldn't explain. Movement. Just the faintest flicker of a figure. 2 nights later, the hallway lights on B2 flicked on while I was watching the monitors. Their motion triggered. I toggled to the angle facing suite 206, and I saw someone walk past, Tan coat, mid-height, slight limp. He passed just under the exit sign, then vanished behind the corner. I grabbed my badge and went straight down, didn't even bring my radio. The hallway lights were still on. I moved quickly, scanning corners, checking each door. At 206, I stopped, knocked. "Security," I said. "If someone's inside, you need to come out." No response. I checked the handle. Locked. But the paper towel was gone, not blown away, removed. The next night, I asked the manager to meet me at 9 p.m. She was already annoyed. "These units are dead space," she said. "If something's in there, it's probably vermin." Still, she brought the master keys and opened the door. I swept the unit top to bottom. It was empty, no lights, no signs of movement, just dust. Until I noticed a crooked vent cover along the far wall. No screws. I pulled it loose. Inside was a crawl space, dark, narrow, and half dug between the walls. I crouched and aimed my flashlight. A rolled blanket, a crumpled water bottle, and a pair of black work shoes, placed side by side. Men's size. Laces tied. The manager's face changed. "This wasn't supposed to be here," she said. She backed away from the wall like it was hot. I asked if any units shared walls like that. "No. And that vent doesn't lead to anything." She promised to have it sealed in the morning. Told me not to talk about it, not even to other staff. 3 nights later, I came in for my shift and found a sticky note on the desk. "You shouldn't have looked," it read. I froze. The office was still locked when I arrived. No signs of entry. But when I checked the system logs, I saw something that didn't make sense. My badge had been used at 3:41 a.m. to unlock the supervisor's key box, the one in the main office down the hall. I knew for a fact I hadn't left the control room, so I pulled the camera feed for my hallway. And there I was, on screen the whole time, still sitting at the desk in the control room. Only, I wasn't moving. I was completely still. No typing, no stretching, no signs of life at all. Just frozen. For 27 full minutes, it didn't look like I was resting. It looked like I was waiting. I took my badge to the restroom and held it under the light. There was a faint smudge on the magnetic strip. A thumbprint, pressed carefully, as if someone had held it just long enough to duplicate it. Last night, the B2 camera feed glitched again. When it came back, the hallway looked normal, except the door to suite 206 was standing wide open. No alarms, no motion alert. I switched angles. The door was just open. I took the elevator down, but when I got there, it was closed again, locked. The keypad flashed red. I looked through the side light. The unit was dark, until I noticed a shape near the back wall. A second pair of black shoes, facing the door. Tonight, when I tapped my badge at the main lobby entrance, the scanner flashed red. Access denied. Already inside. I tried again, same result. Then I looked up at the monitor, the live hallway feed outside the control room. Someone was already sitting in the chair. Back to the camera, tan coat, not moving. And they haven't gotten up in hours. I worked night shift alone at a hotel off I-85. Long halls, motion lights, nobody around after 9. But last month, something weird started happening. Every time I walked the 3rd floor, the hallway lights behind me would fade off, then flick back on, one by one, like something was following me. When I checked the camera feed, I saw motion triggers blinking again, always 5 seconds after I passed, always the same path. My name's Justin. I took the overnight desk job while I studied for my HVAC certification. Quiet hours, free coffee, locked front door. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid rent. Nights were calm, guests asleep, cameras rolling. I was used to silence until I started noticing things that didn't match. The hotel had 4 floors, all indoor halls, 80 rooms, half of them empty most nights. From the front desk, I had access to 8 security monitors and 2 thermal feeds installed during COVID. Each hallway had motion-triggered lights. They'd fade on as you approached, then shut off 30 seconds after no motion. Always worked. Never thought twice about them. Until they started blinking back on. That night, we had maybe 15 rooms booked. No restaurant, no bar, no housekeeping after 9 p.m. Just me and whatever showed up on the cameras. My only errand was dropping off a toothbrush to a family on the 3rd floor. I took the service elevator, handed it off, and headed back toward the stairs. That's when I noticed it. The hallway lights behind me turned off like normal, then started flicking back on, one at a time, exactly in the order I'd walked through. I stopped and turned. The hall was empty, but lights I'd already passed were coming back on again, slowly, exactly 5 seconds apart. I watched one fade off, then blink back to full, like something had walked into the sensor again. Back at the desk, I pulled up the 3rd floor feed. The motion overlay blinked as I moved. Normal. Then 5 seconds later, it blinked again. Same path, same spots. The lights weren't just glitching. They were being re-triggered, like something else was moving behind me. I checked the thermal feed. Grayscale. Only one heat signature. Me. But the motion logs showed 2 distinct passes. Mine, and another, trailing by 5 seconds. Same pacing, same direction, nothing visible, no heat, no shape. Just motion triggers lighting up again in perfect sync with my path. I watched it loop twice, just to be sure. I even stepped back into the hallway and paced the same route, trying to trick the system. Maybe I'd passed some echo zone or caused it myself. But it happened again. My lights, my steps. Then 5 seconds later, lights flaring back to life with no one visible in frame. Then the desk phone rang. Line 103, an internal call. That room had been unoccupied for 3 days. The deadbolt was still engaged when I checked the logs. No one had opened that door all week. I answered. Dead air. Then, click. I traced the call. It had come from the hallway phone just outside 103, right where I'd just walked. The rest of the shift went quiet. I tried to shake it off. Told myself the system was buggy. Maybe the motion sensors were tripping on recycled power. Maybe the call trace was wrong. But the next night, it started again. I walked the same hallway. Slower this time. Deliberate. Lights triggered normally as I moved, then faded out behind me. I waited. 5 seconds later, blink. One came back on, then the next, like something was pacing me. Just one sensor behind. I took a breath and doubled back, walking toward the relit sections, but nothing was there. Still air. Empty hallway. Even my own reflection in the framed art looked tired. Back at the desk, I watched the feed. Each light lit up twice, once for me, and once again, 5 seconds behind. And before I even reached the elevator, the light ahead of me turned on. Next morning, I showed the footage to Hannah, our day manager. She didn't say much, just watched it loop, then said, "Third shift cleaner we had last year?" Told me someone used to follow him too. I asked if he ever saw anything. She said, no. But one night he didn't say anything, just left his badge on the counter. We haven't seen him since. Later that shift, I locked the 3rd floor lights to manual override, forced to stay on. I double-checked the settings before walking away. At 3:22 a.m., they still shut off. Then the phone rang again. Line. Pool deck. We drained the pool last season. The access door had been chained since October. I checked the hallway cam. The light outside the pool was already on. I pulled the thermal feed again. I just needed to see something. Anything. At 2:08 a.m., I walked the third floor. Only one heat signature. Just me, like always. But for 3 frames, just behind me, something showed up. Not a person, just a thin void. A cold blur trailing me step for step. It didn't have a shape, more like something missing from the image. Like the software couldn't decide what it was seeing. Not a figure, just the absence of one. I scrubbed back and watched it again, frame by frame. And there it was. Same space, same motion. Always 5 feet behind me, always in the exact path I had walked. I checked the room temperatures. No airflow fluctuations, no heat plumes from vents. Nothing that could explain that hollow cold patch gliding through the hall. It was like the thermal feed had picked up a gap in reality. Like something was there, but not in the way anything should be. I left the job after that week, never told management why, just said I was focusing on school. Nobody asked questions, but on my final shift, I took one last walk through the 3rd floor. I wasn't trying to be brave, I just needed to know if it was still there. The lights behind me shut off like normal, then flicked back on, one at a time, in perfect rhythm with my steps, but always 5 seconds late. It was like walking with a delayed echo, a presence that didn't need sound or shape, just timing. And just before I reached the end of the hallway, the light in the next hallway turned on. Even though I hadn't taken another step, even though I wasn't facing that way yet, it was waiting for me.